What if your pull toward Ireland wasn't tourism, but memory? Think about that for a moment. Why do some people hear an Irish melody for the very first time and feel something shift inside their chest, as if they're remembering something they never lived? Why do some people born on this island feel as though the ancient stones hold their name? Why do some visit just once and never fully leave? This documentary exists for a single question: why did your soul choose Ireland? Ireland is a small island on the far western edge of Europe. You could drive across it in just a few hours. But there is something here that no map can contain: hills that change color as you watch them, an ocean that asks no permission, stones that have stood for thousands of years while empires crumbled around them, and a people who learned, through centuries of famine, exile, colonization, and loss, to transform all of it into music, into story, into laughter, into presence. If you were born on this land, you already know what we're speaking of. You grew up with it in your bones, with the scent of turf burning in winter, with the voice of an older neighbor telling a story no one quite believed, but everyone listened to, with the sense that the green field just behind the house is somehow sacred, that if you came from somewhere else and Ireland called you, then you know what it is to arrive somewhere and feel you have returned. Not nostalgia for something past, recognition of something that always lived inside you, waiting for an address. And if you haven't yet set foot on this island, but feel that you are in exactly the right place, because Ireland doesn't choose people by passport, it chooses by frequency. Throughout this documentary, we will explore 4 forces that define the Irish soul. Craic, that impossible to translate art of being completely alive in another person's presence. Meitheal, the ancestral law of showing up when someone needs you, without waiting to be asked. The fierce and aching love for a land that expelled millions of its children, and that those children never stopped loving from afar. And Draíocht, the magic that doesn't live in books, but in stones and mist, in the silence of the Connemara hills at dawn. These are not cultural curiosities. They are spiritual teachings, ways of being in the world that this small, wounded, extraordinary island offers to any soul that draws near with an open heart. Ireland is not a destination. It is a calling. And you have already answered it simply by being here. It's called Craic, pronounced Craic. And there is no honest translation into any other language in the world. Because Craic is not simply fun. It is not merely conversation. It is not what happens when you plan a good evening. Craic is what happens when you stop planning that it's that moment. And you know the one, when a conversation around a table has forgotten what time it is. When someone said something that made everyone laugh in a way that almost hurts. When the music started without anyone agreeing to begin. When you looked around and thought, I don't want this to end. That moment has a name in Ireland. And the Irish would say, the Craic was mighty. If you were born on this island, you know exactly what we're describing. You grew up knowing that the best gathering isn't the most expensive. It's the one where the right people come together and something unexpected happens. That a small pub in a village can hold more life than any club in a big city. That the quality of a night is not measured by what was planned, but by what emerged if you left Ireland and carried this with you. You know how hard it is to explain to those who didn't grow up inside this culture. You know what it's like to arrive at a gathering in another country and sense that something is missing, not the food, not the music, but that specific electricity, that quality of presence that turns a conversation into a memory. You carry Craic like an instrument that plays itself when the right conditions appear. And if you love Ireland from a distance, you may have felt this when walking into an Irish pub anywhere in the world and noticing that the air changes, that people turn toward each other differently, that there is an invisible permission to be more yourself than you usually allow. This is not coincidence. It is culture. It is spirituality applied. Because Craic carries a truth that most spiritual traditions in the world spend centuries trying to articulate, that full presence, being completely here, completely with the other person, without half of you already thinking about what comes next, is the purest form of love that exists. The Irish don't call it meditation. They don't call it spiritual practice. They call it a good night, but it is the same thing. Craic reminds us that connection is not a scarce resource, that joy does not need to be earned, that the present moment, inhabited with total surrender, is sacred regardless of where you are, where you came from, or what language you speak when you finally arrive home. It's called Meitheal, pronounced Meitheal. The closest translation might be collective work or communal labor. But even those words don't reach what Meitheal carries inside it, because collective work can be organized. Meitheal simply happens. This is how it worked in rural Ireland centuries ago, when harvest time came, and the work was far too great for any one family. The neighbors showed up, without formal invitation, without negotiation, without waiting to be asked. They arrived with open hands and ready arms, because this is what one did, because this is how life worked, because in that invisible ancestral system, everyone understood that when their own time came, the others would show up for them too. Work was repaid with work. Presence was repaid with presence. And no account was open, because no account ever needed to be closed if you grew up in Ireland. You know that Meitheal did not die. It only changed shape. It is the neighbor who arrives with food when someone in the family falls ill, without asking permission, without waiting for an invitation. It is the community that organizes itself within hours when someone loses everything in a fire. It is the cousin you haven't seen in years who appears at the funeral before you've even made the call. It is the tacit knowing, passed from generation to generation, that in certain moments, you simply show up. That if you left Ireland and carry this with you, you may have noticed living in other countries, that this instinct is not universal, that in many places in the world, help must be explicitly requested. Support must be scheduled in advance. Needs must be carefully negotiated. And perhaps you felt a particular strangeness in the face of this, because inside you lives an older law that says, when someone needs, you show up, full stop. That if you feel drawn to Ireland from a distance, you may recognize Meitheal not as something specifically Irish, but as something you have always believed possible between people, a form of community that your soul searches for and rarely finds in the modern world, a memory of how things could be. And that is precisely what Meitheal is, a memory that separation is a far more fragile illusion than we like to believe. That the other is not outside us. They are woven into us, just as neighbors were woven into each other's survival on those cold green hills of rural Ireland. Meitheal is not a virtue. It is a truth, the truth that no one, in any country, in any era, in any version of human history, arrived where they arrived completely alone. Someone showed up, always. And at some point in your own life, you showed up for someone else without even realizing you were practicing one of the oldest laws of the human soul. There is a love that only the Irish know in this specific way, that it is not the Portuguese saudade, though it resembles it. It is not the nostalgia that any exile feels. It is something older and more complex than that. It is love for a land that expelled you, that had no food to give you, that watched 1 million of its children die of hunger between 1845 and 1852, and watched another 1 million board ships they called coffin ships, because many never reached the other side. And still, those children never stopped loving this island. Generations later, in Boston, in Sydney, in Buenos Aires, in Toronto, there are people who have never set foot in Ireland, but who feel something tighten in their chest when they hear the name of the county their great-grandfather left, who keep a faded photograph of a house that no longer stands, who teach their children words in Irish that they themselves can barely pronounce. Because the love for the land was not interrupted by distance. It was transmitted like a gene, like a prayer, like a flame passed hand to hand across the ocean, that if you were born in Ireland, you know, the particular tension of loving a place that has also challenged you, that has winters too long, that sometimes feels too small for your dreams, that carries historical wounds not yet fully healed, and yet, perhaps especially because of all this, you love it with a ferocity that surprises even you sometimes if you left Ireland and lived somewhere else. You know what it is to carry a country inside your chest like a weight that is also a gift. You know what it is to look at rain in another city and think of Irish rain, which is different from all other rain in the world, finer, more persistent, greener in what it leaves behind. You know what it is to miss something that is not only a place, it is a way of being. And if you have never been to Ireland but love it from a distance, you belong to a long and noble lineage, because Ireland has always produced more devotees than its territory could contain. Its culture spread across the world, not despite the pain, but through it, carried in the bags of those who left with broken hearts and arrived on the other side without losing the music. The spiritual lesson of this fierce love is this, that true love does not need proximity to survive, that loss can be a form of deepening, That there's something in the act of loving what has hurt you not with bitterness, but with understanding, that transforms the wound into a root, and roots, as the Irish know better than anyone, hold firm even when the storm is greater than the tree. It is called Draíocht. In Irish, the word means magic, but not the magic of tricks or illusions. It is the magic that Celtic druids recognized in the stones before any civilization had a name for it. It is the feeling, known to anyone who has ever walked the hills of Connemara at dawn, or stood alone before the cliffs of Moher at dusk, or entered the stone passage of Newgrange on the winter solstice, that the visible world is only the surface of something far vaster and far more alive. The Irish did not invent this perception, but they preserve it, while the rest of the Western world gradually disenchanted its landscape, turning rivers into resources, forests into lumber, hills into property. The Irish maintained a different relationship with the place where they live. The hills have names, the rivers have stories, the ancient stones have presence, and the places where the veil between worlds grows thin are known, respected, and sometimes avoided at dusk. If you grew up in Ireland, you know what it is to pass by a fairy fort, one of those ancient earthen rings in the middle of a field, and feel without anyone needing to tell you that that circle is not crossed lightly. You grew up with stories of banshees and the owls see not as superstition, but as language, a way of naming the forces that exist beyond what reason can map. You know that the morning mist in the interior of Cork is not merely weather. It is the world breathing. If you left Ireland and lived somewhere else, you know what it is to carry a country inside your chest like a weight that is also a gift. You know what it is to look at rain in another city and think of Irish rain, which is different from all other rain in the world, finer, more persistent, greener in what it leaves behind. You know what it is to miss something that is not only a place, it is a way of being. And if you have never been to Ireland but love it from a distance, you belong to a long and noble lineage, because Ireland has always produced more devotees than its territory could contain. Its culture spread across the world, not despite the pain, but through it, carried in the bags of those who left with broken hearts and arrived on the other side without losing the music. The spiritual lesson of this fierce love is this: that true love does not need proximity to survive. That loss can be a form of deepening. That there is something in the act of loving what has hurt you not with bitterness, but with understanding, that transforms the wound into a root, and roots, as the Irish know better than anyone, hold firm even when the storm is greater than the tree. It is called Draíocht. In Irish, the word means magic, but not the magic of tricks or illusions. It is a magic that Celtic druids recognized in the stones before any civilization had a name for it. It is the feeling, known to anyone who has ever walked the hills of Connemara at dawn, or stood alone before the cliffs of Moher at dusk, or entered the stone passage of Newgrange on the winter solstice. That the visible world is only the surface of something far vaster and far more alive. The Irish did not invent this perception, but they preserve it, while the rest of the Western world gradually disenchanted its landscape, turning rivers into resources, forests into lumber, hills into property. The Irish maintained a different relationship with the place where they live. The hills have names, the rivers have stories, the ancient stones have presence, and the places where the veil between worlds grows thin are known, respected, and sometimes avoided at dusk. If you grew up in Ireland, you know what it is to pass by a fairy fort, one of those ancient earthen rings in the middle of a field, and feel without anyone needing to tell you that that circle is not crossed lightly. You grew up with stories of banshees and the owls see not as superstition, but as language, a way of naming the forces that exist beyond what reason can map. You know that the morning mist in the interior of Cork is not merely weather. It is the world breathing. If you left Ireland and lived somewhere else, perhaps Draíocht is what you miss most, that specific quality of Irish air, that light that exists at no other latitude, that feeling that the land is paying attention to you as you walk across it. You may live in an enormous, luminous city and still feel a longing for a particular darkness, the darkness of a night without artificial light in the Irish countryside, where the stars feel closer than anywhere else on earth. And if you have never been to Ireland, but feel this pull, Draíocht may be precisely what is calling you. Not the castles, not the pubs, not the green of the photographs, but the feeling which your soul recognizes before your mind can process it. that in that place, the invisible is more accessible, that there, perhaps, it is easier to hear what you came to this world to do. Because Ireland is not simply an island in the North Atlantic. It is a place where the veil is thinner, where the stones hold memory, where the mist does not conceal, it reveals, and where any soul that draws near with sufficient stillness may hear something that has been waiting a very long time to be heard. We have reached the end of this journey, though perhaps it is more honest to say we have reached the beginning of one day, because what Ireland teaches, through the Craic, the Meitheal, the love that crosses oceans, and the Draíocht that breathes in the stone, is not a lesson to be stored in memory. It is a lesson to be lived, to be practiced, to be chosen day after day. In every moment you decide to be fully present or not. Consider what we have explored together. Craic told us that genuine connection cannot be forced or purchased. That full presence is a form of spirituality that the Irish practice without ever calling it by that name. That the present moment, inhabited with total surrender and joy, is sacred in itself. That the best thing you can offer another person is not a gift, not advice, not a solution. It is your complete attention. Meitheal reminded us that showing up without waiting for an invitation, without calculating the return, without needing to be asked, is one of the most profoundly spiritual acts a human being can perform. That community is not a structure, it is a choice. And that every time you choose to show up for someone, you are practicing the oldest law of the human soul. The fierce love for the land taught us that loss does not have to be the end of anything, that exile can deepen love rather than extinguish it, that loving what has hurt you with understanding, not bitterness, transforms the wound into a root, and that roots hold firm even when the storm is greater than the tree. And Draíocht revealed to us that the visible world is only one layer, and that there are places, and Ireland is one of them, where the veil between what is seen and what is felt is thin enough for any attentive soul to pass through. You, who were born on this island, carry all of this, not as passive inheritance, as living responsibility. The world needs what you know how to do. Be present, show up, love fiercely, and keep the veil thin. You who left Ireland and carry it with you, know that you have lost nothing that matters. Craic travels, Meitheal travels, the love for the land travels. And Draíocht lives inside you, not in a geographic coordinate. And you who love Ireland from a distance, you have already understood something that many people never do. That belonging does not require birth. It requires recognition. And you have recognized. The message of your soul through Ireland is this: be present, show up, love beyond the pain, and remain still enough to hear what life is trying to tell you. The island has said what it came to say. Now it is yours to carry.